Hey guys! I haven't been making videos lately because I've recently graduated from my doctoral program, so I finally got my PhD and I got a job as a postdoc at the same time, and it has been really crazy. I literally walked in the ceremony, got my diploma, and right next day drove several hundred miles to my new apartment, and then right next day start my new job. So I literally had no break whatsoever. The good news is that it's a new chapter in my life. I left the south and went up north, so I'm no longer going to suffer the horribly humid summers, even though apparently the mosquitoes down here are just as bad. But no cockroaches, so I'm very thankful. But apparently, I am going to live through 5 months of snowy winter for the very first time in my life. The job is well paid. The university is prestigious with beautiful campus that looks like a proper university. And I'm also optimistic about the job as it deals with harder STEM stuff than I was used to. The people are very nice here. And also, for the very first time in my life, I'm living alone in a very nice apartment. So, hopefully, this period will be better than before. Now, I have been keeping up to date with men's issues. Recently, the honey badgers lost their case, which was quite shocking given the account of Karen Strom. If you haven't listened to if you haven't listened to it, the two parts in which she described the process, I highly suggest that you do. She's a great storyteller for what it's worth. And I gave two possible explanations for why they lost. One of them was perhaps the judge went and looked up Gamergate and the men's movement in detail and found some really unsavory things online. And if true, this wouldn't be surprising because many of what they say in their videos could be very easily misconstrued and taken out of context. And many, if not most, of the things that are not taken out of context could still be shown in a very bad light. And this is something a bit worrisome to me that the men's movement may be heading towards a counterpart of feminism, especially with the growing members of MGTOWs, in which a large portion of them seem to really resent women, or for real, or at the very least, they think it's all women's problem or something. And many of these people went to MGTOW because they somehow think that if the MGTOW movement become large enough, women will finally, quote unquote, learn their lesson. And I would just like to say a few words about that. First of all, I do support MGTOW in that I support any and all individuals to have the freedom to choose whom they want to associate with, to choose whether to have a partner in life or not, to choose to opt out of responsibility for another human being or animal, given that doing so would not directly harm or damage that human being or the animal in his best capability. So I support MGTOW from that perspective. On the other hand, I also have criticisms regarding the portion of the MGTOW members who think that MGTOW will somehow make a difference. I'm sorry to say that not only do I think that it won't, but I think that it really can actually make the problem worse. And I'm going to explain why. This is the reason. The human society will always reward an individual who, quote unquote, do their duty for the society. And one of the most fundamental aspects of that duty is to procreate. Historically, both men and women who didn't procreate have faced heavy discrimination and many times punishment from their society. Now, right now, we are living in the world of overpopulation, which was the result of people being more free, as well as technological and social advancements. So, decreasing birth rates is most likely a good thing. I mean, I support it. as long as it's with random individuals. But MGTOW men are the red-pilled men, and they are also actively trying to red-pill as many men as possible into joining their movement. This means that if MGTOW gets big enough, those who will not procreate would be the red-pilled men. Unless MGTOW is somehow fine with donating their semen, which I don't believe to be the case, because they know that they can still be screwed over by the system if they did that, right? So this would result in the reproductive success of blue-pilled men and feminist men. And they're the ones who are going to pass down their genes and phenotypes onto the next generation. I think part of the argument from MGTOW is that, well, women would not want to be with blue-pilled men because they tend to be cucks and the women prefer strong, independently minded men. Well, this is true. If women are running out of options, they will go for blue-pilled men. Not only that, but with such a demand, blue-pilled men would also seek out ways to adjust themselves to make themselves more attractive. And not only that, if MGTOW problem becomes large enough, this means imminent societal collapse because, people are not procreating, and with shrinking population, eventually you have nobody and there will be no society. So this would mean that politicians, all of whom would inevitably become blue-pilled men, because I don't think any MGTOW want to go into politics, which will not, because they're going your own way, right? And all those politicians probably would agree to implement laws and policies to force men into submitting to providing for a woman and having children. In other words, society would be fucked. Now, this is only a cautionary tale. I am not here to suggest that, therefore, no MGTOW. I am saying that if you are a MGTOW member and you want to say, you know what, I don't really give a fuck about the world or the society or what happens generations after me. I'm out and that's it. That would be honest and it would be within your right. The only thing I would say about that is that's pretty much the mentality of every single person in history who has made bad choices from which consequences were not felt until generations afterwards. And for example, the problems that we have right now, we are the ones who are feeling them. And they are from the faults of the generations before, and it didn't affect them as much as they're affecting us. So for example, look at all the white guilt bullshit, right? I hate to say this, but if Europeans did not colonize cultures and enslave people so distant and different from themselves, we wouldn't be having this detrimental multicultural bullshit right now. And Europeans would have been just as fine, maybe not as rich as they eventually became, but wealthy enough. And there will still be immigration and exchange of information and ideas, but there will be no excuses for immigrants to not assimilate. Every white person during slavery times who owned a slave was probably thinking the same thing. Well, if there are going to be consequences, it's not on me. I'm just going to sail through life on my own. And sure, what we are feeling now did not affect those people, but their action affect us. So that's just something to keep in mind with regard to MGTOW too, because like I said, if the movement does indeed become large enough, the society will go to shit. More so for men than for women, by the way. So if you're a MGTOW member and you're predominantly doing it to take revenge upon women, and you revel in the thought that women would come begging you to take her into your arms again, I'm here to tell you that you are pretty much deluded. That's certainly what's not going to happen. What would happen would be even greater empowerment of feminism, even more so than now. Imagine that. Because this would exponentially increase women's resentment towards men, even the average woman, even women who do not identify as feminist. So more women would be swept by feminism, and they will go motivate politicians to do something about it, and the politicians would if the problem becomes large enough. And any rights men have left would be completely gone. So no, MGTOW is not going to help men's rights movement, contrary to what they claim, or make any changes for society at all, and probably would make it even worse if they become large enough, which, most people would tell me they won't, and that's probably true. This is all as hypothetical scenarios. And the reason for why MGTOW won't make any change in society is because walking away pretty much never changes anything. In order to make a societal change, we have to recognize and select for better people, better men and women, and let them have the reproductive success over people who are not as good as them. And so that the generations from them will eventually take up leadership. I know it's hard, but keep in mind that this is what humanity have been doing for thousands of years. And I think there are quite a lot of evidence that people in today's world are much better in terms of being moral and ethical, much more peaceful than people just 100 years ago. And that is a result of selection done in many gruesome and turbulent generations of lives. And the people who finally made the change are always Camus' absurd man, the individuals who insist upon familiarity at all costs, and individuals who stuck to a principle and tried until the very end. And many have failed and even faced torture and horrible deaths. But as long as there is effort, the possibility of change will never be zero.